So this tree's got the burning going up further than most of those that I'm about to show you. As I walk back past all these trees over here, they're all burnt on that side with the same kind of burn as right here. Unburnt on this side, burnt on that side. I just decided to come out and get a few more samples. This one over here is interesting. Oh, and by the way, all the unburned leaves everywhere, the unburned weeds. Yet there's hundreds of trees where just the bottom of the tree is burnt, about that tall, and only on one side. Of course, regular fire doesn't work that way. And all of the pieces of charcoaled wood laying all over the ground. Again, burnt more on the bottom side, the downward facing side, than the top side. And they lie here, there, and everywhere in the midst of the unburnt weeds. Been over this. My main reason for even coming out today. That's literally buried inside of unburned weeds. My main purpose for coming out today was to hope to find some pieces that are worth taking and stripping and lacquering. You know, like the hollowed out trees. Look at this charcoal literally touching this highly flammable material. If I put a lighter to that right now, it would start burning instantly. There's just one more, probably more burnt on the bottom side. Yep. Charcoaled on the bottom side, unburned on the top side. And when you can see this repeated all over the ground in the midst of all the unburnt weeds, clearly that's not how fire works. This one's kind of interesting, how it charcoals the end of the branches where they come out. It's got a few other spots on it that aren't like that, but the burned end circle on the branch is a repeating pattern that happens all over. Electricity only burns where it enters and exits, and it's like it's exiting, coming up through the ground and exiting out the tips of the branches, kind of thing. Well, anyway, so that's the big tree that we started at. Here on these trees, again, you can see it's burnt on this side only of all these trees. If I'd get my finger out of the way. I hear a car coming and slowing down. I'll show you some more. So again, there's the first tree we started at. There's the trees we were just looking at. And this tree has the same thing, burned on the right side. You can see the ones back there in the background have the same thing, burned on the right side and only on the bottom. There's plenty more gooder examples. Now some of them burn all the way around, and most of them just burn right there at the bottom. Again, all the unburned leaves and weeds around these trees. But the pattern is that about 80 to 90% of them, they're only burnt on one side. Cruise along. And all these trees will give the same example. You'll see that they're not burnt on the side as we approach them. And then as we pass, looking back at this other side, it is burned. Just on the lower portion, just on this side. Same with all these trees. As you pass by, you go from the unburned side to the burned side. Set my coffee down, get a little closer on these. Clearly that's not how fire works. Fire doesn't just burn up one side of a tree, and there's enough of them here. I'll probably just come on over here and wrap up this segment of the video because we got a lot of examples right here. Going from the burn side over to the unburned side. Pine needles all over the ground, completely untouched. Larger pieces are charcoal. Microwave draws toward the densest pieces of material and leaves the less dense pieces untouched. But the feature here is that they're all burnt on this side, unburnt on this side. With a pretty fine line going up the tree between the burned side and the unburned side. So it's like the energy is coming up out of the ground and going that direction, exiting the tree in that direction, thus burning the part where it's exiting. And that's why they're all only burned on one side. I'm probably not even going to upload this video, but just in case I do, let's walk over here. The weird part about all these charcoal pieces, just random logs laying on the ground, they're not even plugged into the ground. So the electricity isn't coming like up through the roots, which seems to be, you know, what it looks like when you see some of these trees. But when you have just random logs laying on the ground, one here, one there, with a bunch of unburned ones around them, but some of them are highly burned, right next to others that are untouched. The most bizarre pattern, and even more bizarre than the pattern of plasma fire, is the fact that this is the 7th summer that I've been doing this, and the world is still unaware. I can imagine the mechanisms of plasma fire to some degree. It's electricity, microwave, energy. Plasma fire can be understood. The psyche of the human condition, that is why we're 7th summer, 6 years into this. Again, burned on the bottom side like it's radiating up from the ground. Charcoal on the bottom side, unburnt on the top. Both of these are burned on the left side, burned on the left side. These patterns can be studied and understood. This log, burnt on the bottom side. Guarantee it's more charcoaled under here than it is on top. And this sucker's got mad charcoal. Takes a lot of energy to create that much charcoal, with no fuel around it causing it. So, plasma fire can be understood. It's charcoaled underneath. Unburnt on the top. What I can't understand, what is far more bizarre and difficult to comprehend, is the fact that this is the 7th summer, 6 years into this. Here's the pattern. Once you identify the patterns, you see it over and over. Burnt on the bottom side, unburnt on the top. Unburnt on the top, before we even turn it over, you already know what's coming. Before we even turn it over, you already know what's coming. These patterns can be understood once studied through a new type of physics that we don't quite understand yet. 7th summer, 6 years, because my first summer was in 2018. 1 year later, my second summer, I was only 1 year into it. That's why I used both the numbers 6 and 7. 7th summer, 6 years into this. And still, this is unknown by the general public. I don't want to walk clear down there, but all these logs, you can see there's plenty of plasma fire. It intermittently in there. You can see this one, burned on the bottom, unburned on the top. You can see that pattern from far away now. Once you know the pattern, it's pretty easy to spot. And we got a whole hillside of plasma burned logs. Intermittently scattered, highly charcoaled pieces of wood right next to unburned. This one here, center screen, burned on the bottom, unburned on the top. Both of those. This one and this one. Burned on the bottom, unburned on the top. Burned on the bottom, unburned on the top. Trying to wrap my mind around the fact that this is the 7th summer. We're 6 years into this, and people still don't see it. That is boggling my mind far more than the patterns of the plasma fire itself. How is that even possible? And I think that points towards the big reveal that we're about to go through. It's been around us the whole time. The fact that people think we're still alone on a spinning ball in the middle of nowhere, we're the smartest thing that ever evolved out of the mud, and there's no intelligence around us, there's no purpose or meaning to life. The only reason we believe that is very similarly related to the reason we don't see what's all around us in the form of plasma fire. We don't see what's all around us. That one over there looks hollow. I might have to make the trip over there. Shit, I hope I don't fall. I think I'll just zoom in on it. This log right here looks like it's hollowed out in the middle, burnt out in the center. But I've seen enough of these. I'm not going to make the journey because this is some pretty steep shit. I don't want to go down. The big reveal that we're on the precipice of, once it's revealed, people are going to be able to see that it was all around the whole time, and that there was something about their mind that blocked it out. And that something is their level of comfort with the idea. The existence is so uncomfortable, they block it out of their mind. That's why they don't see it. Because the unknown is uncomfortable. They want to live in the world of known knowns. Anything that's a known unknown, plasma fire is a known unknown. Or the unknown unknowns, they block it out. They're comfortable living in a world where everything is known. And there's only a small, tiny, teeny, tiny fraction of the unknown that's left for the experts to discover. Our ability to block things out and only see what we want to see is why we still believe we're all alone and there's no purpose or meaning, and we don't recognize we're on a consciousness farm. We're a livestock. We're a highly valued commodity to a higher intelligence that's cultivating and raising us, and it's time for the harvest. So here we are at childhood's end, the end of Earth School. We're about to get kicked out of the house. Birds that refuse to fly out of the nest. The nest is about to get jerked out from underneath us. There were those who wanted to slowly acclimate us to the outside world. Let us come and go back and forth in between the indoors, the house we've always known, the four walls and the roof we're familiar with, in order to become comfortable with the outside world. But there were forces at work that kept us in the dark, that refused to allow us to gradually acclimate to the understanding and the nature of who we are. That's not a bad thing. Childhood is a good thing. With your ignorance and your misconceptions of the world and who you are, and the inside, the environment of your four walls and your roof that you've grown up in, for you is the whole world. It's not a bad place to be. Enjoy it while it lasts. It's about to disappear. Drastically, rapidly, like the rug is pulled out from underneath you, the four walls and the roof disappear all at once. The nest that we're living in gets tipped over, and you got to learn to fly immediately. You get blown out of the airlock, and it's so sudden and drastic that it's much more turbulent and difficult to navigate that process. But there are those on the livestock consciousness farm that have insisted on keeping us in the dark, using us like child labor, keeping us ignorant. And so those that are going to set us free have no choice but to do it drastically, rapidly, all at once, which means every institution you know is coming to an end. Government, economics, and religion all go out the window. History and science all goes out the window because it's so incomplete, it's completely incorrect. And it happens so drastically that we'll need something to replace it rather quickly. But until we learn to fly in the outside world, we're just going to be floating in midair. Suddenly everything you held so dear disappears without a trace. Religion, governance, economics, all of it. Once the roof is peeled back and all the four walls around us disappear, none of that shit matters anymore. We discover there was purpose and meaning to life and that there is truth. And we've been living all of our lives here in the Western society as if there is no purpose or meaning and there is no truth. You suddenly realize, holy shit, I got some catching up to do. All the things that I spent my time and paid my attention towards are instantly of no value. Zero. And so you might have to redo a year or two of Earth School. You might just have to catch up and get some extra credit there right at the end during the graduation ceremony.